You are listening to The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending. Welcome back to today's episode of The Black Landscape with your host, Andrea Spearman. Joining us today is Sarah Crowell. Thanks so much for joining us today.
It is so fabulous to be here, Andrea.
We are so excited. If we would just start by just briefly sharing with our audience a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. So again, my name is Sarah Crowell, and actually for 30 years, I ran an organization in different roles called Destiny Arts Center, which is based in Oakland, California. And the mission of Destiny Arts Center is to inspire and ignite social change through the arts. My background is in dance, so I started dancing when I was 5. I told my mom when I was 5, I was like, I'm going to be a dancer. And I proceeded to take as many dance classes as I could. I had a very large tutu collection, and I would recruit neighborhood kids to be in my production. So there were tutus involved. There was, a record player playing stuff. I set up the chairs. I charged the admission. I produced, directed, choreographed, recruited dancers. Basically what I did for a long time at Destiny Arts Center. So I started early. Even my dad was like, one time he said, Sarah, I think your ticket prices are a little too steep, because I was he was like, why don't you bring it down to 5 cents? I think you get a better audience. So I've been recruiting with, working with advisors for a long time around this way. And then I danced in dance companies, both in Boston and in the Bay Area. I moved out to San Francisco to dance with Dance Brigade, or at least to audition for them. And Dance Brigade is a feminist dance theater company based in San Francisco. They still exist. Their mothership was the Wallflower Order Dance Collective, which was started in the 70s. And Dance Brigade is the current version. I started working with them in the 80s. And then sort of inspired by the work that I did with Dance Brigade, which combined like scathing political discourse and critique with really powerful modern dance and martial arts. I started the performing arts programs at Destiny Arts Center in Oakland, partly because Destiny was connected to Dance Brigade. And so I started teaching free dance classes because of a California Arts Council residency program that existed that paid me to give free classes. And then eventually started our youth performance company for teenagers, and the program just blossomed. Hand to Hand Community Arts Center, Self-Defense Center in Oakland was the original organization, and they were a martial arts and self-defense center, mostly for women at first. Then it became co-ed. Then they had a youth program, and they wanted dance. They wanted some kind of way to get the kids in the neighborhood, where I live still, the kids in the neighborhood to come through and learn the self-defense skills and build community. And it didn't have to be through the martial arts. And hip hop was the thing, right? So I was teaching hip hop. I was teaching modern dance. Hip hop had just become, in 1990, when I started at Destiny, was just become a classroom thing. It was really clubs. It was the streets. And then it became a classroom sport. So I was teaching hip hop in the classroom as well as modern dance, and building up our teen dance company. Long story short, I did it for 30 years. The dance company won multiple awards, was in 2 documentary films, the subject of 2 documentary films. And a lot of elbow grease went into that work. We now own, Destiny Arts Center now owns a 7,500 square foot building in North Oakland. Bam, boom.
Mm-hmm. Ownership.
Owns it, right? That is the mothership now. And I'm just excited that we can offer a space to diverse communities, mostly communities of color, because the mothership, Destiny Arts Center, has programming, 3 big dance studios with mirrors and hardwood floors, but we also have programs that go out into the community, and we're in public schools and in juvenile halls all over the Bay Area. I actually left Destiny at the end of 2020 after 30 years. because I figured there was something else besides that, and I wasn't quite sure. But Spirit was like, it's time for you to jump off the ledge. You did that starting this program. This is how you're going to walk out. Jump off into the void, right? Spread my wings and try a new adventure.
I love that. We're going to go way back to the beginning.
Ooh.
Because you said you knew at 5. How do you know at 5 that, like, this is what I want to do? I'm going to get other people involved. Did you, like, see something on TV?
That's a really good question. I think I don't know, maybe my body just came in knowing, because I don't remember a particular thing. I was just sharing that I loved, like, somebody asked me the question, what inspired me when I was little and what on TVs inspired me? And I think it was a combination of the cartoon Jackson 5, because I saw myself finally in cartoons, and I was obsessed with Saturday morning cartoons. And here was like a Black family doing all the things, singing and dancing. So that inspired me. And also, I really loved ballet. So I remember actually, though, at 9, I went to a ballet. It was like a National Ballet of Canada, because I lived in Canada at the time. And it was this very melodramatic rendition of Giselle. And I loved it. But I remember looking at these dancers and understanding that the skill, the time that was required to attain that type of skill was something that I wasn't going to do in that art form, because I knew that I wanted to do work that centered around social justice. I was 9 years old. I had 2 social activist parents. My mother was doing anti-racism work before it was called anti-racism. And my father was doing anti-nuke work. He was doing monetary reform. He was teaching ethics as a professor at a university to engineering and business students. I was like, felt like I was born with a placard on my chest. You know what I'm saying? We were going to protest, save the world, save the planet for my children or for me. So it was this combination of passion for social justice and really understanding that I wanted to move my body in those ways. I wanted to find ways to move my body and express myself in that form. And so I took ballet. I actually took ballet all the way through high school. And I went to high school in Nassau in the Bahamas, where my teacher had been a Dance Theater of Harlem dancer. And so I got Black folks to teach me ballet, holla. And then when I finally started taking modern dance and hip hop dance, I was like, oh, something opened in me, something expressed in me that had not felt like it had been expressed yet. But living in Nassau, living in the Bahamas, those kids could move their bodies in ways that I didn't even understand, because I moved from Canada. So I grew up in Canada, then I went to Nassau for high school, and I'm looking at the babies, the 5, 6-year-olds, and they're getting down. They had access to their hips in ways that I wanted. I was like, that's what I want. I want to understand what they have access to and find that in myself and celebrate that with and for them. And so that's sort of like the heart, maybe like the inspiration was those kids in Nassau for the work that I did at Destiny Art Center with youth ages 3 to 18. It's like, let's have kids who didn't grow up taking ballet class, but have a natural sense of rhythm, have like an inherited, almost like in their blood, in their genetics, a connection to their body that was so powerful that we need to amplify that. We need to uplift that. We need to give expression to that in order for this world to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So you just said that you had a Black ballet teacher, which is still like out of the range of like thought, and it's not common. Do you think that shaped how you view dance growing up further and then moving into these other styles, especially growing up as like a biracial child?
Yeah, absolutely. And as a biracial child, when I was in Canada, I wanted to be white. When I moved to the West Indies, I didn't want anybody to know that I was half white. I wanted to just be Black. So I had that torn thing, you know what I'm saying? And I actually I know you're asking me a question, but I'm going to say this before I forget.
Yeah.
I actually used art and performance and dance to heal from that divide that lived inside of myself. So I co-created a show with another dancer from Dance Brigade and also who had danced in the Oakland Ballet, Erica Smith, who was my girlfriend at the time. We co-created a show called Portrait of a Girl from Nowhere, and it was based on our experiences as dancers being mixed race. So repeat your question about what is the question again?
How did
It's real, family.
how did having like a black ballet teacher kind of shape the way that you identify and also how you're seeing yourself move from different dance genres?
Yeah, I think having a black ballet teacher helped me integrate, first of all, to let go of the self-hatred that I had being a brown person in ballet. So it dropped it early enough. I mean, I remember when I was probably 6 years old, I went to ballet class and I was the only brown kid in there. I had big pigtails with my hair was just wild. It was just, it's tame now. You can't see it, but there's barely any hair on my head. But then I had wild, curly, nappy, fuzzy hair. And I looked in the mirror and it's sort of those realizations that you have, those moments that you can remember when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this realization was wow, I don't look like any of these people that are around me. And it didn't occur right away that there was something wrong with that, but it started to codify. There's something wrong with me. I need to tame the hair. I need to pull up straighter. I need to be thinner. All of that started. And then I'm 13 and I'm in an all black country and I'm taking ballet from a black man. And so it interrupted, I think, something that a lot of people here in this country don't have interrupted until later in their lives, right? And I was in puberty, so that very sensitive space where, and then later I'm teaching a Destiny and taught teenagers. That was my main focus when I was there. To hold that tender place and to have a role model, a black role model for me, to see myself and my teacher and all the students that I was taking class with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't even spoken about this in a long time. It was so important. And I can't even imagine that I would have been able to the work that I did at Destiny without having that experience, without being seen, and then understanding the strength and the power of that. So I taught at, besides Destiny during that 30 years, I also taught at Liquid Meridian High School in San Francisco, which is a private high school. It costs a lot of money to go there. It's primarily white, although they're pretty good with their endowment. So they have a lot of kids of color, but not very many, more than most. And I remember when I got hired there, I went into the classroom and there were probably 3 black girls out of about 25 kids. And they all looked, when they saw me and they saw that I was good at what I did, that I was not only a good dancer, but I was a skilled teacher. It's their bodies shifted, their faces opened, their heart. It's I could feel the energy of their hearts. I could feel them going, they took a deep breath and they got to be who they were, And so
Yes.
to me, I just followed that energy of seeing myself reflected in my teachers and uplifting, being uplifted myself. I was I need to pull that forward. I need to be able to give that to young people that are coming up, because being a teenager is not more than an ocean. It's difficult. It's challenging. I mean, if you have a good time as a teenager, I would like to know who you are. You know what I'm saying? It's a journey that's difficult. I wanted to soften that journey for the students that I worked with at Destiny.
Yes. So you brought that interrupting spirit with you on over to Destiny. You said, I'm going to take the interruption that happened for me and I'm going to make it happen right here for y'all. This, inner city, urban children. So y'all don't have to wait till you're adults to get that representation in front of you.
Exactly. And in fact, about 5 or 6 years ago, we had many conversations at Destiny Arts Center about whether we wanted to still offer modern dance or anything that was connected to balletic expression, any Euro dance expression. Not that I don't appreciate those dance forms, because I do. I studied them and loved them for a long time. I think they also, even though I was reflected by my teacher in Nassau, and also I danced in dance companies that had women or women of color that were running the companies, who were celebrating my body and celebrating my Blackness, I still, even though I had all of those things, I still was like, I want to cut my breasts off. I had, like, in order to be acceptable in this world of dance, I need to shift something about this body that was given to me. And I remember a phone call that I had with my mother, because I was crying. I was probably 20 years old. I was living in Boston. I was dancing in a dance company called Impulse Jazz Dance Company, run by the amazing Adrienne Hawkins, Black woman. And everybody was flat-chested, and I was like, I can't, Mom. I need to get rid of these titties. I just can't do it. And she was unexpected, because my mom was always supportive of me. She was like, go be a dancer, go be an artist, leave school. You don't need to get all A's. Like, she was that kind of do you type of mom.
I love that.
And then she said, and she's the Black parent, and she said to me, so I figured she would say, well, go ahead and get to surgery then. That's what I thought. She was like, I'm going to time you out right now. She said, if you are considering cutting a piece of your body that God gave you, you might want to actually consider leaving the thing that's causing you to think that you need to do that. Mm-hmm. Rather than messing with your body, go ahead and rethink the art form that you're involved in. Is that loving to you? Mm-hmm. And so there's so much packed into that moment for me, that conversation, that musing. I did not change my body, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful. My lovers are also grateful that I kept my body as they had. Can I get a what? And I think, like, what does it take for us to be in our bodies as they are, and express ourselves fully in all of the art forms that we feel connected to? That's sort of been the conversation for myself as an artist and as an arts educator for my entire life, really.
Mom is a smart cookie. She said, take a second, think about it, reevaluate what's going on here.
Exactly. Assata Shakur, Black Panther revolutionary who now lives in Cuba, who was one of my role models, and I read her book when I was very young. And I'm going to paraphrase this, but I had a poster up. She says, freedom is the ability to be yourself, to truly be yourself. Mm-hmm. That's the paraphrase. But for me, that was one of the things that kept me going. It's like, how do I allow young people to truly be themselves? And I need to be myself truly in front of them. Mm-hmm. That's the only way. And for me, also the conversation was, I want young people to really love themselves. I'm going to teach them how to do that. And then there was this moment where I was like, wait a minute, you can't teach people how to do that. You can love yourself and be around people. Mm-hmm. And then they feel that, and then it starts being contagious.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Sarah. We're going to take a short break to hear from our sponsor. To catch up on previous episodes of The Black Landscape, stream on Apple and Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Anchor.fm, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Hey fam, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you about it. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard across Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast, just in one place. Now download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. We are back with Sarah Crowell. You have recently written an article for the In Dance publication, and in it you referenced your dance theater company called I Am Productions and the choreography there that explored the complexity of being biracial in America. Would you tell us more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned it a little earlier, but the show itself that we ended up touring all over the country and actually went to the NGO Forum on Women in China in 1995 and performed there. It was called Portrait of a Girl from Nowhere. And really there's sort of I played the character. We played multiple characters, but my main character was the wannabe Black ghetto girl. And then we had my partner was Erica Smith, was the wannabe white ballerina girl. So these two personas, right? They weren't perfectly us as individuals, but I had always leaned into more my Blackness, and she had always leaned more into her whiteness. And we were both biracial, and we were both grappling with the tension inside of our own bodies around that, in our own psyches. And so there's this one moment where the two of us are facing each other and we're doing mirrored movements, and we can't believe that the other person is a part of us. Right, so we have both of these pieces. We tell stories of our childhood through movement and through text. One story is like when I was in Nassau and I was running the mile in a track and field meet, and I won. Like I came in second at my school, which was like a small school. And then that led me to go to the all city meet. Well, those girls, they were like the Olympic athletes that you see, with the little shorts and the abs of steel and, in the Olympics, because Bahamians win Olympic sports. And I'm this little skinny ballet dancer running up again. So you can get the clue. But I think that we tackled the tension in our own selves, in our own lives, and the way that racial politics kind of beat our bodies up, and beat up, like sort of confused our minds. And in the end, there's sort of a simple realization that even though in both of our pasts, there are probably slave masters who raped our great-great-grandmothers, but our biracialness was based on two people who loved one another and created us. So that brought a piece of peace to both of us. And the journey in the play was sort of like we are in the city and we break out and we're in a desert, and then we end up at the ocean. And so the ocean is symbolic of release and self-acceptance, really. Or at least a beginning of that.
I love that water is such a symbolic part of so many people's journeys in that way. It's like I feel like there's been so many moments over the years of like dance choreographies or films or movies, what have you, where the person goes out into the water and they just release and have their hands out or up into the sky, reaching up to their higher power and just woo.
Yeah.
Problems gone. or the releasing of holding them so tightly.
Yes. And there is something about the ocean that does that. And Nassau, is a small island in the Bahamas, right? And the ocean was such a healing space for me in so many ways. And so it was symbolic of all of those things.
I love that. You bring so much of your identity to your work. Is that part of the trainings for the youth there to ask them, like, even though they're like taking class and learning from, instructors there, once you get to the performance part, I've seen them do so much work, around social justice and Black Lives Matter, but how much are the children bringing their like own lives and experiences to it?
That's a really good question. And for the work at Destiny, what was important to me was that they understood the political issues that we were bringing up through their own personal experiences. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just, I'm going to go out there and pump a fist and say Black Lives Matter. It's like we had so much self-inquiry and so much opportunity to connect with each other across differences in order to create those scripts, because we co-create script, co-create choreography with the young people. So they get to be in dynamic collaboration with professional artists who are asking them questions about themselves and who are reflecting it back. So one example that just came to mind of a way to prepare young people to co-create this work is that had a lot of political content in it, right? Was you do like, you're sitting in front of one other person, there's a whole group, but you're knee to knee to somebody, and you're doing repeated questions. So somebody's asking a question over and over again for a minute, and you're answering. The first question is, who are you? And so it might be, if I was both people, it'd be like, who are you? A Black woman. Who are you? A mixed woman. Who are you? An artist. Who are you? A dancer. Who are you? A lover of what is, whatever comes. Then it becomes this journey that they take. Then the next question is, who do you pretend to be? Ooh. The next one is, who do you want to be? And then you come back to, who are you? So we do inquiry like that over and over again in order to give the kids a sense that their voice is present in everything that they do. Their voice, their bodies, their passions, their fears, their joys, their hopes, all of that is folded into every single production that the Destiny Arts Youth Performance Company does. And now we have a Destiny Junior Company for 9 to 12-year-olds that also do the same kind of work, age appropriate, right? But they're talking about issues that matter to them. So they create work about Black Lives Matter. They create work based on their own experiences. Like one girl told a poem about something that happened at school. It got refined with the teachers with her permission, right? Everything is collaborative. And then they perform it with a dance piece behind it, right? There was one student of mine years ago who came out as a lesbian, and she wrote a piece about what it was like to come out at 13 and to be very gender fluid. She was mistaken for a man or a young man all the time. What was that like for her? And she was suicidal at that time. And I said, "Oh, so you want to write a piece and you want to perform this?" "Yes, sir. I want to write it and I want to do it. This is going to save my life." I was like, "I think you're right." So we wrote it, she wrote a piece. We worked on it together. We did this whole thing where she's standing in the center and the whole group of about 25 other kids are behind her, literally getting her back while she's like holding her back while she's saying her poem. So they had her back on stage and they acted out beautifully and simply through movement what she was sharing as a young woman who came out. And the amount of response and support that this young woman got just by making the courageous move to write and perform this piece was overwhelming. And for me, what I felt like was important is it has to be true. It has to be from the heart. It has to involve some kind of movement, because we're not neck up. We're embodied humans. And because we have bodies, we move in them. And I think in order for any shift or change to truly happen, our bodies have to come with us. It seems so simple, and I think people forget about the body. And it has to be crafted beautifully so an audience can receive it. There's the lighting is beautiful, the costuming is beautiful, the expression is crafted in a way that you can't look away. You have to hear the message. You're not distracted by lighting that's bad or delivery of the poem that's off, or they don't remember their lines. Like, it's fine art that comes from the heart.
I just love that this young person felt safe enough to share that with you and, the totality of, Destiny's Arts instructors and staff, and felt that she would be able to safely share that, write about it, and be supported in performing it. Because that's a lot
It's
for
a lot.
13.
It's a lot at 13. And for me, kids also are growing up so fast. We have got to, as people who are holding containers for young people, we have got to meet them where they are, and we have got to give them permission to be who they are.
Yes.
And Destiny is all about, you get to be who you are, and you got to show up, and you have to be kind. You don't have to be nice, but you have to be kind with one another. You have to respect one another. You have to, there are like all these values that are baked in to the work. The Warriors Code is love, respect, care, responsibility, honor, and peace. It's repeated over and over again. It's baked into the work. It's baked into the staff trainings and the hiring practices and the way people are received at the door. Like every layer at that organization is about justice, is about equity, is about care. It's about all of those things. And because of that, the relationships with their families are, have places in the actual space, because it's a beautiful space where they can be present while their kids are in the other room taking a dance class or taking a martial arts class. They're able to have access, like parents, caregivers of all sorts have access to instructors and administrators there, so that it's not just the young person that's tackling it, it's the whole family. And so I had many conversations with this young person's mom, like this is going on, and got consent from the student to talk to her mom. Like there's so many layers to get to that performance. As you know, as a performer, there's so much in a 2-minute piece. That could be 6 months of work right there.
Child. Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad to hear about the upliftment, the empowerment, the love, the care that goes on, not just at Destiny, but that's clearly something that is surrounding you as a person.
Thank you for that. I appreciate being witnessed, and it's a journey. It's a journey to love yourself, or it has been a journey, I'll say, to love myself, like deeply and truly. And then there are multiple opportunities and challenges as I age to continue to love myself as a dancer who's going to be 57 in May. Like, how do I continue to evolve and love myself in this body, and now in this body, and in this space, and now in this space, right? How does it continue? And then how do I bring that to every piece of work that I do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us.
What a pleasure. You're amazing.
Thank you. Can you please tell the audience where they can find you and support the work that you do with Destiny Arts and in the community?
Yeah, well, for right now, because I've only been a year away from Destiny Arts Center, I do not have a website yet. But you can reach me on Facebook at Sarah Crowell, Crowell 65. Oh, that's Instagram. Sarah Crowell 65, because that's when I was born, 1965. Sarah with an H family, Instagram. And go to the Destiny Arts Center website to learn more about Destiny at destinyarts.org. DESTINYARTS.org.
Fantastic. Thank you all out there for listening and supporting another season. This has been another episode of The Black Landscape, where Black excellence is always trending.